Today's cocktail is the margarita. The margarita is a cocktail consisting of tequila, orange liqueur, and lime juice, often served in a salted rim glass. The margarita can be prepared shaken over ice or blended as a frozen margarita. There are a lot of myths surrounding the creation of the margarita, but best practice would assume that it came across the border from Mexico during the Prohibition days, as it was a drink called the Daisy, which was made with brandy, and it switched to tequila during Prohibition because tequila was able to be imported across the border from Mexico. I don't care where it came from or how it got here. The margarita is fabulous. Like its cousins, the daiquiri and the pina colada, there are a billion variations of the margarita. Whether in a pitcher or frozen, you can basically, if you can come up with a fruit, you can make a margarita out of it. Examples: blackberry mango, blue margarita, citrus margarita, watermelon margarita, kiwi margarita, pineapple margarita, strawberry margarita, raspberry pineapple margarita, blueberry pineapple margarita. Basically, if you can come up with a combination of flavors or fruits that you like, you can make a margarita out of them. And that lends itself to a lot of creativity for themed parties and events, for using seasonal fruits that are readily available, for using exotic tropical fruits that you can't get everywhere. It just, as drinks go, and I'll be the first to admit, I am not a tequila guy. I very rarely drink tequila. The agave taste does not appeal to me necessarily, but a good frozen margarita, yes sir, I'll do that. And I prefer not to have salt on mine, but that's a personal thing. That said, it's a fun drink, and it'll put you on your backside if you're not careful. So use them wisely. But again, when it's hot outside and you're at an outdoor function, a resort, poolside, whatever, a margarita is a great drink to have during the summer months. And again, with the number of varieties available, you can do a lot of things with it. So it's really versatile, as long as you can tolerate the taste of tequila. As always, if you are of age, I highly recommend you try one out when you have the opportunity. And as always, drink responsibly. Alright, sometimes you bring a knife to a gunfight and walk away with only a flesh wound. Redline Time Attack is a series of racing events that began in 2006. The object is to go out on the racetrack and lay down the single fastest lap time. Cars were divided into classes based on their modification levels and potential speeds. Practice sessions allowed as many laps as you could get in. The time attack itself consisted of 5 laps. 1 warm-up, 3 timed laps, and 1 cool-down. Cars are released in small groups and staggered so as to minimize the odds of having to execute a pass. I've competed in Redline Time Attack twice, once in 2007 and again in 2009. I got involved in Redline Time Attack for a number of reasons. The first being, I'd spent the prior 2 years building a car suitable for track use. I'd also taken the time to learn how to drive it. While I did enjoy the track day sessions I was doing, NASA weekends are heavily biased towards the pro racing schedule, and the HPDEs occasionally get bumped or shortened in order to support the race for the weekend. Also, due to the requirement of having an instructor in the car to graduate to the next level, and my track car having only 1 seat and safety harness, I had not graduated to timed sessions. I was still stuck in HPDE 2. Where I could drive by myself, but there were limited passing opportunities, and I was not prepared to graduate up to the faster classes with unlimited passing. So for HPDEs, I can estimate my lap time based on my camcorder and my roll cage and kind of freeze frame it at start-finish line and kind of get my lap times like that. But I wanted to run with a transponder and have an actual, real lap times down to the 100th of a second, and a spreadsheet that said what I'd done and all that. And also, Redline Time Attack would basically be unregulated. I mean, I was out there and there were no passing restrictions. It was every car for himself, and don't wreck. So I saw it as an opportunity to test my skills as a driver and a car builder. So the cons were Madison, Illinois, where Gateway Racetrack is 260 road miles from where I lived at the time. My car had no interior, and it had no air conditioning, and it was summer, and this was basically a run once you run kind of event. So there were going to be some high horsepower heavy hitters there. The pros is that I was confident in my ability to drive my car right up to its limits, and that car, as built at that time, with the combination of engine, suspension, and tires, I knew it inside and out, and I wasn't concerned about my skill level. I had enough money that if I was to wreck and live or break the car, that I could have it towed back home, and I could take a bus or a train to get back where I needed to be. And I had another car there I could drive to work, so it would be inconvenient to break the car, but not a deal breaker necessarily. And how often would a series like Redline, which was based on the West Coast, leave California and come to someplace like middle of nowhere Illinois or suburban St. Louis, however you want to call it, and come out to the Corn Belt and let us get a chance to play? So ultimately I decided to make the trip, and my car was technically slotted in the street category, thanks to some close reading of the rules and some loose interpretations. Basically at that point I owned two 240SXs, and the street car, the Buzzer as I like to call it, still had a full interior. So I borrowed some parts out of the street car and put them back in my track car, and used the rationale that the carpet had been removed to facilitate the roll cage. And so the only parts of the interior that I had removed were specifically to install safety equipment, which kind of got a wink and a nod from the safety inspector, but he went with it. So I got to go in the street class, and I was in street rear wheel drive, and there were a pair of Honda S2000s there with me, which was interesting. For practice sessions, they did put me, I think I did practice in the open rear wheel drive class. So I remember there was a gutted out Porsche 944 that I was tag teaming with, but also there were a couple of really fast, I don't even know what they were, but they came by me really fast during the practice sessions. That was a little unnerving, but I got used to it fairly quick. So yeah, during the open practice sessions, I did discover the joy of what happens when a 155 horsepower car is on the track with a 500 horsepower car, and what it's like to literally get my doors blown off. But nobody hit me, so that was good. I was able to get pretty consistent with my lap times and bring them down over time. That was good. I did 2 practice sessions, and then we had the first time attack session, and I put down a pretty good time, by far my best time of the day, and I was happy. But then, being July and being Southern Illinois, it rained. There was a little deluge there for a little while, and the track got good and wet. And they tried to drive the track. I mean, they were even letting spectators take their cars out onto the track to try to dry it off. But in my opinion, it just didn't get dry enough, and I sat out the second session. Even though I knew I could get my car home, with the credit cards and my savings account and whatnot, I had no desire to wreck my car, and given the preference, I would prefer to drive it back home. So, ovals, St. Louis Gateway has a road course, and we were using the road course, but it's still an oval track, and you spend a lot of time out on that oval next to that concrete wall, and I just wasn't willing to risk it. So I sat out the second session, and luckily that didn't hurt me in terms of overall times. I still ended up in third place, and I was never contesting for first. Those S2000s had something like 237 horsepower stock, and my car had 155. And roll cage or not, my car was still basically a 1996 street car versus the latest and greatest from Honda, and it wasn't going to be a fair fight in that regard. So I was happy to leave with third place, honestly, without incident, without leaving the course or bumping up against the wall or anything like that. And it was in general regard, it was a good weekend, and I'm happy with it. And my 2009 Time Attack experience was entirely different, but that's a story that I'll save for another time. So, I hope you enjoyed hearing about what taking part in the 2007 St. Louis round of the Redline Time Attack was like. I really enjoyed it, and I was glad I got to go play with the big boys for once, even though I was decidedly a very small pup trying to run with big dogs. Thank you for watching Cocktails and Crankshafts. Please like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell icon, and we'll see you soon.